Back in the ancient year of 2022, I released a tier list of the entire Red Faction franchise. Just to summarize, both the original title and Guerrilla are still worth playing today. However, I was a bit perplexed on what to ultimately say about Red Faction Armageddon. Being the final game in the series released in 2011, it was released to lower review scores compared to Guerrilla and underperformed from a sales perspective. At the time, I figured the game was okay, but couldn't really get all the way through. Maybe I was just getting burnt out by the series at that point, or it really was bad enough to kill a very solid franchise. Either way, I'm here to answer the question on whether or not Red Faction Armageddon was really that bad. So when you start the game, you can pick your difficulty and then are greeted with a cutscene. As a quick synopsis, you are Darius Mason, grandson of the protagonist Alec Mason from Red Faction Guerrilla. You eventually take up a job gone awry that ends up releasing a crap ton of aliens that end up infesting all of Mars. The premise itself is solid, but the narrative is ultimately a weak one and just serves to explain why you are completing the missions presented to you. As someone who actively wants to learn more about the Red Faction universe, this story couldn't hold my interest. While most of the game takes place in linear underground tunnels, the opening battle is a boatload of fun. Basically, you're tasked with taking out Adam Hale, the leader of a bunch of cultists planning their own revolution. It's got everything you'll look for in a fast-paced shooter with a bunch of guns, explosions, and enemies to shoot at. It's honestly one of the highlights of the game, as unfortunately there is a noticeable dip in quality after this level. While the game retains a majority of the third-person shooting mechanics from Guerrilla, there are several new notable features. Outside of the improvement in graphics, the ability to repair environments is now introduced. Sometimes you'll need to repair a bridge to get across or repair a path that you end up destroying. It's quite an interesting feature to play with, and it even gets a bit of an expansion later on, but it tends to be a bit overused with how easy it is to destroy the environment in this game. One of the most notable features of Red Faction outside of its setting on Mars is its destructible environments, which is featured in spades here. Almost everything here can be destroyed, which leads to a ton of creative ways to kill your enemies. This is made even more enjoyable with the all-new magnet gun. To use it, you target one object or enemy, then click on another or the environment to let the magic happen. It's pretty awesome sending an alien flying into some spikes or to drop a whole tower on an enemy cultist. It's one of the most fun and unique additions to the series. For the other weapons, you are given a pretty nice variety of them. Some of them feel underwhelming to use and are easily replaced by better ones, while others are very useful. A few shoutouts I would like to give are the shotgun for being a shotgun and the rail driver for being a returning railgun that is still awesome to use. You also have some cool powers to play with, including a shockwave to help push a large amount of enemies away from you. Overall, a decent arsenal with decent results. Now, I did mention that after the opening level, everything tends to go downhill. Well, that is definitely true, especially for the next few levels. Once the aliens are released, it's nothing but a gray featureless cave until you reach the survivors. This is when you notice one of the biggest flaws with the game, and that is with the level design. Due to how many of the levels are structured, there really is only one way to go, and destroying the buildings you will run across will ultimately force you to repair everything in order to get through. This is when the repair feature tends to become quite tedious for how easily stairs and ladders get destroyed. The other big issue is that many of these aliens are just not very fun to shoot. Sure, shooting an alien point blank range with a shotgun never gets old, but the alien variety is extremely lacking. They're also pretty one note, killing everything in sight, making them quite one-dimensional. It's incredibly disappointing considering the potential that was given here. You could have had some very interesting race that helps expand on the Martian lore and helps to tie in the franchise's overall theme about rebellion. Instead, Volition took the way too easy route, making them mindless bugs to squash that would rather jump around than actually attack you. Thankfully, the game does try its best to make things up, and it does get better over time. My favorite sections are the vehicle sections for just how powerful you are. One of my favorites is the Spider Walker armed with 2 arc cannons and an additional cannon for secondary fire. There's even a flying section, which was actually a lot more enjoyable than I anticipated. It's moments like these that clamor for more open-ended design and wish the game took full advantage of the Mars environment. Along with these vehicle sections, there are upgrades that can be purchased with the salvage you'll find during your playthrough. Each tier will be unlocked after you progress to a certain part of the game. For the most part, I found the upgrades to be pretty useful, especially the ones that increase your health as well as the strength of your weapons. According to howlongtobeat.com, the game will take about 8 hours to get through the main campaign. Playing through this on normal, I was able to clock in about 6 hours, and this was without skipping any cutscenes. While the length is definitely on the shorter side, you can easily get this game on a deep sale. Currently on Steam and GOG, it can be bought for about $20, but often goes on sale for much less. Even with the short campaign, there are still several additional modes to play around with, which is always appreciated. The first is Infestation, which is basically this game's survival mode against waves upon waves of aliens. This can be done either by yourself or with several others, and there's actually quite a bit of maps and variations to this, which helps to provide more replay value than usual. Personally, it's not a mode I see myself dumping a ton of hours into, but I do appreciate the inclusion. The other mode is Ruin, which allows you to basically destroy everything on the map that you select. You can either play the challenge mode or just play it free form. This is honestly a crap ton of fun and really helps to highlight the game's destruction. It allows for a ton of creativity trying to see how to destroy the various objects presented. It also further makes me wish that Guerrilla had the magnet gun, but that's neither here nor there. So now that everything is wrapped up and I finally went through the game properly, would I recommend it? For the positives, there is a decent variety of weapons, the upgrades are nice, and the destruction is still fun to play around with. However, the underground missions are terrible, the plot is very underwhelming, and many of the levels are far too linear for its own good. It also features some very drab and boring visuals throughout, and the aliens just aren't very interesting. Still, I'm glad I went through this one and can give it an overall slight recommendation. Definitely temper your expectations with this one, and you'll be able to find some enjoyment here. Thank you guys for watching as always, and this is Powerhouse, signing off.